If I hold really still, can we pretend that there's a technical problem and I can buy myself some time? I don't have enough water on me. So, before we get things going here, this is the Church of Korihor. We are a godless community for a spiritual community for godless people. I'm already screwing it up. Every Friday, we're going to start getting together to give to people who are in need, and we're going to have a little bit of fun. If you don't know, if you are not aware, please be aware. The Mormon Temple has a movie. You may have heard of it. They call it the Mormon Temple movie. I call it the Mormon Temple melodrama. Sometimes it's referred to as the endowment. And over the years, it has changed. It supposedly is a sacred ritual, and we're not just here to make fun of it, though we are going to do that. We are going to learn something very interesting about it because this temple movie, which was originally a play, was supposedly done by Joseph Smith, created by Joseph Smith in 1842, and then, or 1841 or thereabouts, developed or thereabouts, and then brought over the plains by Brigham Young. I've said this before. I'm saying it again. We don't really know what Joseph Smith's original version of the temple movie or play or melodrama or drama. Welcome, everybody, to the Church of Korihor. Hey, it's Jules. It's good to see you, Jules. Ladies and gentlemen, Jules. Jules Del Sol, also known as Jules Treasures, is one of our luminaries and not a promoter of radical gender ideology, nor myself and I. Be boys and girls and men and women in every way that is legally acceptable under the current paradigm. And none of us let us be challenging to the wisdom of Epstein Island. So we're going to go over some of the interesting things we will learn from the Mormon Temple movie when it was longer. See, believe it or not, the Mormon Temple movie, first of all, one of the worst things about being Mormon, having to sit through this damn movie. It was awful. I mean, it really was. It was generally poorly acted, except with the exception of one person. When I went through, they had two versions of the movie. They had one that was made in the 70s where Eve was hot, and everything was boring. And then they had one where Eve was a little less hot, but she was fine. But it doesn't matter because she's like almost mute in the whole movie. Like she's like, "Oh, I did eat the fruit," and that was like nothing, right? Exactly. Tiglo Carbon. If you get that reference, you speak Iwakese or you're just a fan. Jules and I bond. Oh, Jules, I didn't bring it. I have, I have Daughter of Alderaan in the car. Um, I was gonna try to have it posted before Jules uh, was in our live next because it's her favorite painting of mine. That still makes my heart glow. So I'm not quite ready with all of this. What? Okay, the best actor in the Mormon Temple movie when I was a Mormon was Michael Ballum, far and away, who plays Satan. And I have to say a lot about the Church of Korihor's fashion sense, though you don't see much of it. I don't know how many of you are going to notice. I'm just going to come out and say it before somebody. Yes, this is the same shirt as yesterday. I am running on all cylinders here, just trying to get, just trying to keep alive here. So yes, same shirt. Can we pretend it's a different one? Looks exactly like it. Great. Um, it's going straight into the wash though, because woof. But anyways, but there's a scene from the Mormon Temple movie that got removed, one of many, to make it shorter. That frankly, I think made it worse, and it exposes a lot about the understanding of what Mormonism is and was and what it was intended to be. And it's also just kind of fun. And I've always thought I'd love to just AI a movie, like a movie scene, and do a scene of where we just play out, where we just get all these characters. And as soon as I had that idea, I blocked it out of my head and I said, "Do no, Joseph, you got plenty of shit to do. Don't be coming up with that. And then it just kept coming up, and I'm like, we should make a movie. We should use AI tools to make a movie. I'm like, I'll make it an animated film. We'll make it easier. We'll make it an animated film. And we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're doing a slideshow presentation, which is very fitting because now the temple movie is a slideshow anyways, because allegedly, because people got tired of still set up from yesterday. People got tired of, allegedly the church got tired of having to change and film a whole new movie every time one of the actors in the movie left the church. We don't know that. It may be the case, but and so they started doing it as a presentation, as a slideshow, allegedly, so that they could swap slides in and out if they needed to. Ours is not quite done. I'm trying to wrap it up right now. We're going to do it together while we talk. Going to go ahead and throw the StreamYard into the live post, into the live comments, in case anybody feels bold enough to join. But first, while I go and get some water, and before I go and show you the process of how I made all of these, I guess, before we get into it, let's get in the spirit of the solstice with our very first and still only solstice song as our hymn. And that is our beautiful solstice song dedicated to Carl Sagan and to Sir Isaac Newton, who was born on Christmas Day. This is An Apple Pie from Scratch. I say, this is an apple pie from scratch.
On a cold December morn, a son of these stars was born. That long winter solstice night gave us a child of wonder bright. An apple pie from scratch, this child's gift unmatched. Principles that light our hearts, this child of wonder was our start. In his apple's fall we rose to Mars. With his rainbow we found the stars. With a curiosity so pure, a child's light in us endures. An apple pie from scratch, this child's gift unmatched. Principles that light our hearts, this child of wonder was our start. If you wish to make Newton's apple pie, let Carl point you to the sky. It began on Christmas Day. A child was born to light our way. By his mind we made Apollo rise. Upon his light we sail the skies. On this pale blue dot in a sunbeam was born a boy who made us dream. An apple pie from scratch, this child's gift unmatched. Principles that light our hearts, this child of wonder was our star. So let us sing this solstice night to honor Carl and Isaac's light. In our stars hearts as yet unwritten, a child of wonder to us was given.
Oh, sometimes you just don't know where the buttons are, because here you are. Um, I wanted to have this done. It literally took like longer than I would like to admit. So I'm going to finish the slideshow while we talk. People are welcome to join if they want. Otherwise, I'm going to share with you my screen while I show you. I mean, maybe this is of interest to people, how I'm generating these panels for this slideshow. It is like so close. Okay, so share screen. I'll just share just this one. So this is Leonardo AI. The secret is out. This is how I do all of our AI generation stuff. This is me generating the characters. This is our preacher man skulking off. Oh, this is good. This one will work. Okay, hold on. So the purpose behind these Friday meetings used to be that we just like would shoot the shit. I would for a while we did this where I would like talk about how we want to build a rocket and send it to deter an asteroid that is apparently coming for Earth. Maybe a less than a 1% chance is coming for Earth. That was met with some scrutiny, and so we're going to put that on the back burner until it actually becomes a serious enough problem that people will take us seriously. So, but now our current mission is to try and get is to expand our mission to provide blankets to the unsheltered. We're going to instead do that for people. We're going to expand that to getting all kinds of things for that are needed for people who are work insecure, food insecure, and shelter insecure all over the country. And I wanted to, and so if people want to do that, if you want to help us and participate in that mission, I showed the ad that we're going to start running as of the day after tomorrow on YouTube to try and generate some support. People who can donate, you'll be able to donate blankets, you'll be able to donate sleeping bags, you'll be able to donate hot hands, camping stoves, all canned food items, baby formula, diapers, etc. And our plan is we're developing an interface. This may be long term, maybe like closer to the end of the month, where people who have applied and asked for help will be able to list things that they're specifically needing. Now, at first, it's going to be kind of a thing of, okay, here's a story of people who have specific needs. And if you have something that you can provide, whether that's a job referral, some cans of soup or foods, non-perishable food items, or whatever, you can send them to the church. Working on getting an address down here in St. George that you can send to, or you can go on Amazon. We'll have a wish list that you can order them off of the wish list. In the long term, my hope is we might go so far as to have like a wish list for every individual person in need. I'm a little bit worried at this stage because it's mainly me and Nikki managing everything technologically, that might be a little overwhelming. So we'll have an Amazon wish list, and then we have the donation link at the church. I recently discovered, doing a little further research, that the only way we are legally able to write tax receipts is if people donate to the church directly. So that's interesting. That's going to require some adjustment in terms of like what happens if people give cash, and things like this. So we're going to have to work that out. But in any event, at this point, the best way to give is to go to corohor.org. There's a button there now that says give. In fact, maybe I can show that. Well, anyways, it's there. It's right at the top. The first button on the page is give. The second button will say serve. That's still not entirely functional. We're still working on that. And then the login button. And that I have recently discovered has a bug in it. There's lots of bugs on the website. Please be patient. Please be patient. We're working on it. Anyway, so this is how I create these slides, and I thought you guys would get a kick out of that while I'm doing this. First of all, let me update this slide. So we have the preacher man. Oh, stop. I don't want to do that. We have our preacher man skulking off. This is the last view of him. This guy has been completely removed from the Mormon Church's melodrama in the temple. In the Mormon Church, they had this new policy in the 1930s that said, they called it the good neighbor policy, in which they decided to take all the things that were so culty and dangerously culty, basically, um, and cut them out, especially the things that felt super anti-American. And one of them was this preacher man. In the temple ceremony, there was a preacher who makes a pact with the devil unknowingly, and this guy basically represents Christianity as a whole. Well, as you can imagine, that is met with some when that gets discovered, people don't want to believe it that the Mormons actually have this melodrama, this movie, this play. It never made it into any of the movie versions. And it's so important that people understand this is the origins of Mormonism's perspective on Christianity. I'm going to call this temple scene. It's hard for me to do multiple things at the same time. Okay, I have one more that I needed to do with St. Peter when he's in his glowy thing. So we're going to change this here. Color comic book panel of Peter glowing with heavenly radiance as he declares, "We are." I don't know. Sometimes, you get going, you get on a roll, and then you just like forget one detail. Like I'm missing a whole panel here. So I can choose these. Well, I'm not going to explain everything here, but basically this is image reference. So I can pick another panel that I've already made, and then it knows, okay, this is basically where we're going with this. That makes it a lot easier once you already have the scenes, if you're doing something like this. By the way, this is so good, I've decided, what we probably need to do. I'm just checking StreamYard to make sure that, can everybody hear me back there? Everything's okay? Go into the comments. If, whatever. Would you get a comic book of this? Because I totally would. It turns out really good. Some of the details are not consistent one panel to another, but overall, pretty good. Pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and generate this. Meanwhile, everything else should be there. I'm probably going to wind up with something missing in the end, but there are a couple of scenes that I have to catch up. And then we should be good. As a matter of fact, we're not going to waste any time with those. We're just going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and just put a placeholder there, and we'll just call it good enough. How about that? It's going to go right. Well, anyways, I'll take care of that here in a minute. Okay, so here we are. We have, why is he pointing like that? I don't want him pointing. I think maybe I just need to pick a different reference. I'll call it Peter. Some of the gestures, none of the gestures are entirely accurate to the secret codes and tokens and signs in the Mormon temple. That's not because I'm afraid to show the actual ones is because the AI is not great at rendering them, or I'm not great at prompting it and disclosing to the AI how to build it. But yeah, anyways. So while this generates here, I am going to go and place our conversation, and we'll call it good enough. This goes after. We do not blame you. We'll visit you again shortly. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I'm just going to put the text here and say that, and call it placeholder. Meanwhile, on Colab, we'll just call it that. If you know, you know. Okay, anyways. So, okay, that conversation happens. We'll just call it that for now. We are. Good. Okay, so here's my man. He says we are. I'm going to download that. I'm going to put that into our movie. I swear, you guys, this is so close. Oh, for hell's sake, don't do that. You know, I feel like I have to explain myself on the AI thing. We're a poor church. We don't have a lot of money. So to compete with big churches that do have a lot of money, we use a lot of AI. AI generated music, AI generated images. And you know what? If we had money, we would do everything in a way that felt morally better. But lo and behold, we don't. So there we go. Oh yeah, let me put this other conversation between Elohim, God the Father, and the and Peter, James, and John. Voices of the gods are now heard in the other room. Okay, put that here. Call it. Meanwhile, on Kolob. Kolob, if you don't know, is the planet where God resides. One revolution of that planet or day on that planet is 1,000 years. Science. Mormons are very good at science. Okay, so there's meanwhile, blah, blah, blah. And then I guess we don't need this slide, so that's good. We are almost there. And then we have Peter, James, and John's introductions. Believe it or not, so basically this melodrama, it takes place, I would say allegorically. It is an allegory, because here's the thing. Sorry, put two more here. I did make a character reference for John, I think. Boom, boom, boom. I come over to your generations and I put John. Oh, wait. Nope. Oh, I did. Yeah. James. And then I'm going to, so sometimes what I'll do is I'll create these character reference sheets, and I have the AI create the character reference sheet. And then I tell it, this is the image reference. And then I describe it. I'm using GPT image 1.5. There are many different models that you can use. Right now, GPT 1.5 is doing really good, especially with anything that has to do with text, which is, if you've ever done AI images, it's one of the things that AI is notoriously bad at. Well, GPT is getting really good at it. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So this is James, and I know the lyrics. Panel of James. Of the ancient apostle James, glowing with heavenly radiance, as he declares, we are. Or no, he declares, sorry, I am James. The writing, the script, the dialogue in this. In a grove of trees, glowing with heavenly radiance, as he declares, I am James. Let's see if our James renders. I really wanted to have time. If I'd had time, it occurred to me today that I should that I could make John look just like John Lennon. He has only one line in the whole movie. We didn't have time. I'm going to talk a little bit about our mission, the Church of Korihor. Yeah. So originally we were just delivering blankets in Salt Lake under what we called Rapture. Oh, this is good. And then Jules volunteered to start Rapture with a W, 505, which was our mission and is our mission down in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I went out and started delivering blankets. Oh, stop it. Stop it, Joe. Started delivering blankets in Salt Lake City to people who were cold and living and sleeping rough out on the streets. And Jules was doing the same in Albuquerque. And now we're going to be doing, Jules is in San Diego. Sorry, Jules. I hope you didn't. I hope I didn't reveal too much there. We're going to need somebody to take over Albuquerque. Wink, wink. Don't say. I'm just kidding. We have like one person in Albuquerque who could do it, but frankly, she's got a lot on her plate, and I'm not expecting anybody to go out of their way and do anything that is a big sacrifice, especially when you have a family crisis. We don't do that. We don't ask people to work for free, even when it's for charitable works, when they have too much on their plate as it is. I am John. The whole thing was a gag, making this thing into John looking like John Lennon, so I could go, I am John. It was all for a gag, that part. And frankly, yeah, it would waste too much time. So, and we're almost there. So, but now what I've discovered is I think that we can actually do more work, get more impact if we get volunteers as well as luminaries. So we'll have a handful of luminaries that's ordained clergy for the Church of Korihor, who will be the ones who actually have things like people's home addresses, people's names, people, and so forth. Because luminaries are ordained clergy who actually have background checks and who have signed a declaration to abide by our clergy standards of conduct, which include things like if somebody tells you that they've been abusing children, you are required to report it to law enforcement within 24 hours. No exceptions. That's not because I am confident that law enforcement are going to handle it right, but because frankly, we're just not equipped to handle it. And that's the next authority. Also, wherever possible, a marginalized group needs to have somebody, an advocate, that is called to represent the person, the marginalized person, the person who is in danger, whether that's a senior or elder, whether that's a child, whether that's a person who is differently abled, etc. And so, but we do need volunteers also. So if you're able to cook some food and have somebody else pick it up, or if you're able to, donate something, but somebody has to ship it for you or something like that, we'll also gather some volunteers who will be able to come in and take over some of the menial tasks, and that way be able to expand the work of our luminaries. For the first little while, it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt. I can close this now. We're done. We're done with that part. We're ready to do the movie. Let me just say this. For the first little part, we're going to try this, and it's going to be wonky, and it's going to be screwy, and there's going to be a whole lot about it that we're not going to understand, that we're going to worry, what the hell are we doing here? And there's going to be frustrating moments. Like I said, nobody's ever made a godless church quite like ours before. And so we're leaning into it, expecting that we're going to screw some things up. Every church does. Every human effort screws up for the first several times. Remember Apollo 11 or Apollo 1? Apollo 11 landed on the moon. Yes, it did. Fight me. Apollo 1, all the astronauts burned up inside the capsule. Okay? This is our Apollo 1. So just be ready. We are here to lean into all the ways in which we're going to screw up, including me, but now you guys get to join me in screwing up as well. Okay, this should be totally saved. All right, so let's have some fun. So this is the temple movie. I am going to load it into I'm going to load it into our stage here. Let me first load the hymn, just so we have that ready. Yes, inside the Mormon temple movie back in the days when with the preacher that worked with the devil's preacher, they actually had a hymn that was sung as part of the devil. Very good question, Mary Beth. I was going to go to the Talking Points USA. I call it Little Nuremberg. I was excited for it too, but then I discovered that they were offering cash incentives for people to turn over anybody with promoting radical ideology, and I thought, if there's anywhere that I'm going to get caught, it's going to be in Phoenix at the TPUSA tour. So Little Nuremberg, not going to go. I have to follow level 1 when it comes to Little Nuremberg, but don't you fret. I am going to be showing up, and we're going to be having a lot more street sermons in 2026, and maybe even some in this year. Yeah. Basically, Jules and I were talking about this a little bit off camera. It's disconcerting. Basically, right now they are offering thousands of dollars for tips to turn over anybody who is promoting radical gender ideology, whatever the hell that is, or who is promoting anti-American sentiment, including anti-Christian sentiment, anti-Christian ideology, or anything that challenges traditional family values. Yeah. So we're being careful. Level 1, stay alive. Let's watch this movie. Okay, so let me see if I can import. I'm still calling it untitled presentation. Hopefully this is all in here. Okay, so this is the movie, right? I wish I could make it bigger inside the portrait view, but whatever. We're making it work. Yeah. Don't say anything that's going to trigger anything, you guys. Be super careful. Super careful. Let's just have some fun right now. Okay, so those, if you know, you know. This is from the 1931 version of the Mormon Temple movie. Some of you will right away and notice that it's different. In different versions of this, there's a moment where Adam and Eve in the lone and dreary world are praying at the altar, and Adam raises his hands high above his head, and in the Adamic language, which is the language that Adam spoke, Adamic language, declares Pei Le Ale as he brings his hands down, which becomes significant later in the ceremony. And Pei Le Ale supposedly means, "Oh God, hear the words of my mouth." By 1931, they had already changed it to, "Oh Lord, hear the words of my mouth." Go figure. But when they teach you to do it in the actual process, now I believe I think they do it like as one sweeping motion. You only have to do it once. But in any event, Adam in the ceremony starts out this scene, and it's going to be familiar to people who have been through the temple. And if you're worried, if you're out there and you are LDS still, and you're seeing this in the future or whenever, don't worry. This is not your current temple ceremony. It's the temple ceremony that was abandoned about 100 years ago almost. Part of the reason why they changed it, by the way, was a prayer of vengeance in which everybody was expected, while they were in the true order of prayer, to pray for revenge against America, to pray for vengeance on America for the assassination of Joseph Smith. And so this is like, and so around the time when fascism was rising in Europe, when Utah had just gained statehood recently, thanks in large part to my great great uncle Joseph Lafayette Rollins. And the Mormons were trying to downplay their polygamy as they were trying to abandon polygamy slash practice polygamy in secret. They started to clean up their act in terms of the temple. So in terms of temple ceremonies. And so they started to scale back some things. One was that they scaled back this oath of vengeance prayer. And another was that they cut out all of the controversial shit that they said about that is said to be part of Christianity. All the things they had to say about Christianity in this temple ceremony. I'm bringing it back up because now that people in the Mormon church want to insist on being called Christians, they want to call their weekly sacrament meeting services, worship services, Sunday worship, or whatever. And I'm for it. I'm for it. I just want to be clear. This is how much has changed. Okay. The preacher, the devil and the preacher in the Mormon temple movie was absolutely pivotal to understanding the origins of Mormon theory and Mormon thinking about Christianity. Remember, in the Book of Mormon, it says there are only two churches: the Church of the Lamb of God. I'll give you three guesses to guess which one that is, and you won't need them. And then the Church of the Devil. This is the secret ceremony, the secret temple scene that was removed. If it doesn't look familiar to you, that makes sense, because for most of us in here who even went through the temple at any point in our lives, this has been missing from the temple ceremony for like 50 years, at least by the time we were born. So here we go. Let us begin. The word of one God. O Lord, hear the words of my mouth. I hear you. What is it you want? Oh my hell. Oh my hell. I told you I'd screw up. That I put that in there. Oh, it didn't update. Hold on, you guys. I have to pull it out. I have to pull it out. No jokes. No jokes. Okay. Let me see if I can save it somehow. Isn't it supposed to save automatically? Maybe if I back out, it saves it. Maybe if I make a copy of it. I'm trying importing it back in because like it'll be missing like everything. It'll be missing so much stuff. Hold on. It's just trying to have fun. Oh, I know why. I know why. Add Google Slides. Oh, I have to do this whole thing. Oh, Google, you're pissing me off, man. Google and StreamYards, get your shit together. Sorry, you guys. This is me. This is me just bitching about myself. I screwed up. Sorry. Here we go. Here it is. It's processing. I didn't get a chance to rehearse this part. So, anyways, while that's loading, how you guys been? Yeah, I could not. I would never be able to get it to do the patriarchal grip. No way. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay, we got it here. Yeah, sorry. Add to stage. Here we go. Here it goes. This is the temple scene. This will be the part that I end up clipping, so I should have. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, Lord, hear the words of my mouth. I hear you. What is it you want? Who are you? The God of this world. Who made you the God of this world? I made myself. What is it that you want? I was calling on Father. Oh, I see. You want religion. I'll have some preachers along presently. You have a very fine congregation here. Oh, are you a preacher? Yes. Have you been to college and studied the dead languages? Why, certainly. No one can preach the gospel acceptably unless he has been to college and studied the dead languages. Well, if you'll preach your gospel to this congregation and convert them, mind you, I'll give you, let's see, 4,000 a year. That is very little, but I'll do the best I can. Good morning, sir. Good morning. I understand you are looking for religion. I was calling upon Father. We'll sing 2 verses of the grand old hymn. That'll get him. Okay, in the notes from the 1931 version, it says that Lucifer, this is Lucifer with his robe, taps his toe and conducts taps his toe in time with the music. The music is an actual old Protestant hymn, and this is I went ahead and had Suno help us out with it. I couldn't embed it in the actual, yeah. So Suno, take it away. This is the actual hymn that they would then play.
Hail, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, one Lord in persons three. To thee we make our joyful boast, our songs we raise to thee. Fountain of every joy and grace, our God, we thee adore. Beyond the bounds of time and space, thou dwellest evermore.
Do you believe in that great spirit, without body, parts, passions, who sits on the top of a topless throne beyond the bounds of time and space, whose center is everywhere and circumference nowhere, who fills immensity with his presence and yet is so small he can dwell in your heart? Do you believe this? No, I don't believe a word of it. Why, I am very sorry for you, but perhaps you believe in hell, that great and bottomless pit, which is full of fire and brimstone, into which the wicked are cast, and where they are ever burning and yet never burn. No, I do not, and I am sorry for you. Good job, baby. We are very, very sorry for you. What is it you want? I want nothing. I am awaiting messengers from my father. Meanwhile, in Kolob, Elohim to Jehovah, that's the father to the son, or father to Jesus, Jehovah, the man Adam, seems to be true and faithful. Let us send down to him Peter, James, and John. Jehovah, that is good. They shall go down. Hello? What is going on here? We are making religion. Indeed. What are you making it out of? Newspapers, novels, notions of men and women sugared over with scripture. And how does it take with this congregation? Oh, pretty well. With all except this man Adam, he does not believe anything. Good morning, sir. How do you like the preaching of this gentleman? Not at all. He tells of a God without a body and a hell without a bottom, into which the wicked are cast, and where they are forever burning and never consumed. I cannot believe it. We do not blame you. We will visit you again shortly. Meanwhile, on Kolob, Peter reporting to Elohim, that's God the Father, we have been down to the man Adam. Lucifer is there with a preacher who is trying to teach him all manner of false doctrine. Yet amid it all, he still remains true and faithful. Elohim above says, go down to the man Adam in your proper characters. Give him the second token of the Aaronic priesthood. Instruct him to place the robe on the left shoulder and come back and report. They descend and, I am Peter. I am James. I'm John. Are you the apostles of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? We are. Why, he said we should have no more apostles, and if any should come along professing to be such, I was to ask them to cut off a leg or an arm and put it on again, just to show they have come with power. He did that to deceive you. A wicked and an adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. We do not satisfy people's idle curiosity. Why, do you know who that man is? Why, certainly, he's a great gentleman and is at the head of all religious denominations of the day. Well, I can fully believe that. Why, that's Lucifer. What? The devil? Yes, I believe that is one of his names. I would advise you to have a settlement with him and get out of his employ. But if I get out of his employ, what is to become of me? Why, we will teach you the everlasting gospel in connection with the rest of the sons of Adam. Well, that's very good. I say, sir, is it not time we had a settlement? Oh, I'll keep my word. I offered you 4,000 a year to convert this people, and by what I can see, they have nearly converted you. Get out of my kingdom. I don't want such men in it. He skulks away. Have you your tokens? Those are secret handshakes. Have you got money? Enough for our wants. You can get anything in this world for money. Do you sell your tokens for money? You have them, I believe. I have them, but I value them too highly to part with them for money. I thought I knew you. Begone! By whose authority? In the name of Jesus Christ, my master. Ah, he skulks away. Everybody gets to, all the evils get a great chance to skulk away dramatically. Best roles in the whole play. Best roles in the whole play. Then Peter extends his hand. They do the token. That is not the token, not because I'm afraid to show it, but because AI doesn't know how to do it. Anyway, and I don't know how to describe it. What is that? The first token of the Aaronic priesthood. Has it a name? It has. Will you give it to me? I cannot, for it is connected with the new. with my new name. I did screw up a few of the little bit of text. I cannot, for it is connected with my new name. But this is the sign. Brethren and sisters, these are true messengers from Father. Give heed to their instructions, and they will lead you in the ways of life and salvation. That took me all afternoon, but it was fun. I had fun. Once I knew that I had to do this, once I had the idea to do this, this little scene, I knew I was going to do it. I knew it. Anyways, hi. In the future, my hope is to try and make this into something more or less kind of like, I'd like to do Friday night broadcasts as a kind of less sermonizing, less podcasty, more like a kind of fun game night that we can get together and play games and do and or have comedy acts, do something a little bit fun to celebrate the end of the week and the coming on of the weekend. I promise we're going to try to make it more fun than that was, although I did have a good time. I wasted a shit ton of time at it, but I've been wanting to get that for a while anyways. But because again, two greatest roles in the whole temple movie are Satan and the preacher, because they're the ones who actually have conflict. They actually have personality. Everybody else is just kind of a flat wall, especially Eve. I have to say though, do you guys, let me add this back in there. Okay. Can we give it up for Eve? Not a single line in the whole scene. Just Eve, all of her actions, all her blocking. I feel disgusting saying this, but while I was making this and looking at all these images that I was making with these dudes all interacting as Eve just kind of sits there, she reminded me of a girl I dated. I didn't prompt it to look like her, but yeah, exactly. I may have put into one prompt that she dotes on Adam, but then I cut it. I didn't wind up using that image. The AI just knew. If he's talking, she's doting on him. I did have them high five once, but literally the whole prompt was they high five because he has this excellent apologetic moment. No, I do not. And I am sorry for you. That's like the most Mormon response ever. It's like it's then that I thought, oh my God, have we been in training for this kind of apologetics the entirety of the history of Mormonism? But the whole time, yeah, like I didn't even create her character. I just figured I would add her in, or in a couple of shots. The AI created her to go along with Adam. I created Adam's character, and then it just started filling Eve in, and it was this girl. She came out of artificial intelligence. Go figure. But she's great. I mean, she takes the role. She runs with it. So, hey, kudos to Eve. But it is an extremely stupidly misogynistic play. It is like she literally, like, her whole character in the whole movie is Adam, eat some of the fruit of this tree. Do you mean to keep all the commandments that Father has given us? I have eaten of this apple. I have eaten of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And I will be cast out, and you will be left the lone man in the Garden of Eden. And it's like, oh God, it's painful. The writing is horrible, which is why it's so much more distressing that the writing for Lucifer and for the preacher is so much better. And there's a hymn. How much better would the temple movie have been if they left the hymn? The problem is, of course, that the hymn, this whole scene really exposes first of all, Joseph Smith's complete lack of respect for timelines and storytelling. How is it that Peter, James, and John are interacting physically with physical people before Peter, James, and John are born? They're not resurrected beings. This is part of how you get into this argument that goes on inside Mormon circles. Is the Mormon Temple movie, the Mormon Temple melodrama, do they change it frequently, compared to, scripture and so forth, because it is meant to be allegorical? It's supposed to be a parable, because it doesn't even make sense timeline wise. Why Peter, James, and John? Why not the angel Gabriel? Why not the archangels? None of this makes sense. None of it makes sense. It's very haphazard thrown together. And frankly, we don't know how much of it probably was Joseph Smith's and how much of it was Brigham Young's. But anyways, in the future, I want to, I've talked to a couple of people who are comedians about the possibility of having like a comedy special that we'll do every Friday night, and everybody kind of gets together to have a comedy night. Just kick back, have a laugh or two, and then we'll do it kind of like an infomercial style and say, we promote it out there to the whole wide world, try to get lots of people on board to come in and join in, and get people who are members of the Church of Korihor, part of the Church of Korihor, and then other people who are from the wider world to say, come on in, we're doing a fundraiser. And then we'll bring up individuals who are in need and say, here's this person, and they're in a pretty desperate situation. They reached out to us for help. Right now, I'm especially concerned because, there are lots of people in our, there's a lot of people in our community who are housing insecure. I'll give you one such example. Here in St. George, since I moved here, I came to discover my sister, who is very well connected into the LGBTQIA plus community here, and especially the drag queens and kings out here in St. George. St. George is a very heavily Mormon area, very conservative in its social and other values. And at times, the LGBTQIA plus community here in Southern Utah is having to flourish in adversity, because down here, they actually, in the whole anti-drag queen craze, they actually passed like a city ordinance that said that you can't have drag queen performances, regardless of whether they are drag shows. You can't basically be in drag in public effectively in any formal protest or any parade or anything like this. They basically have rescinded First Amendment rights for people who are dressed in drag. It's not even being trans. Drag is not trans, right? I mean, some people dressed in drag are trans, but but the two things are different. And not that it should be allowed for the government to prohibit trans people from being able to go out in public and being able to participate in their civic role with, in the persona that they are, in their gender identity, manifesting their gender identity and expression. And they have gone to court, taken the local government to court. Right. We're going to have at some point, we're going to have our own, like our own platform so that we can actually be able to say things that we want to say. Anyways, I can't help but wonder if at some point we'll be able to implement Discord or something, or Rumble or something, Vimeo, and just be able to meet behind closed doors at some point. But anyways, at this point, here's the thing. So one of the people inside my sister's community I met with just yesterday. Just this last Sunday. I've only been back down here. I've been up in Utah County helping my ex-wife with getting me moved out and getting the transition, helping the kids get transitioned into not having dad around full time. And so I came back on Sunday. I'm going back up, by the way, tomorrow to spend the weekend with my kids. And I came back down here and I met this person a man who is connected to the community down here. And his name is Kevin. And he discovered, and he recently, through some tragedies of a medical nature in his household and family, and the current economic situation, he lost his employment. And he has a child. He's divorced. He has an ex who relies on him to certainly take care of himself and so forth. And he was relegated to the rather desperate situation most of us have been in at one point or another. Because he is gay, and a lot of his Mormon family don't approve of his orientation, he can't go to his family for help. And he has been on the verge of eviction. Also, got a medical bill for way more money than he could normally afford. And now he had no income, and eventually wound up getting a job at the movie theater. He had, I forget what the kind of job he had before, but he's got a teaching job that's going to be coming up in the spring, excuse me. But right now he's working for $11 an hour down at the movie theater. And he confided in me. It was a real ego hit for him. It was a really vulnerable moment for him to admit this to a person he had just met, and I didn't inquire. He volunteered and said, I had to make the choice of which meal I would eat every day, if any. And he's a big guy. I mean, I don't mean to give anybody body image issues. I mean, like, he needs calories. He needs to keep up his strength. And he's working full time. And he has blood sugar regulation issues. And you can't be in a position where you're skipping meals if you have to care for your blood sugar. So some people in the LGBTQIA plus community here in St. George, and some people he knows around the country, have been going to this guy's GoFundMe and giving him money, and trying to help him out so that he can stay in his apartment, because he is literally on the verge of being evicted. And meanwhile, other people in the local community here, have been giving him like top ramen and canned foods and whatever they can part with to keep his calories up. This is a man who is working, but the job he has, meager pay that it is, he basically has to call in every day to find out if there's a shift for him to go and work at the movie theater, picking popcorn off the floor and stuff. It's like, and he loves it because he gets to watch free movies and things like this, but he's in pain all the time. And he's like, I could go to everybody. He's like, everybody in my family. It's the same thing, by the way. I'm just candidly, we talked about this about 1 week ago. My wife ended up in a desperate financial situation. I wound up having to bail her out. My ex-wife, just last week, a couple weeks ago. Mistakes were made. That's not the point of this. And I love this woman, in spite of the fact that she is now my ex-wife. I love her, and she's the mother of my children. And I couldn't very well let my children go hungry. And I've had people caring people, loving people tell me, Joe, don't bail her out every time, because she has to learn to fend for herself. She wanted to be independent. You have to let her do it. But like I said, it's not just her, right? Is it? It's my kids. And besides that, I love her. And I can't bear to see her suffer. So I did. I went in and I bailed her out. And I don't say this to be boastful in any way. I say it because while that was happening, I told her, I said, look, I can bail you out financially in this one scrape, but you have to be able to feed the kids after this, because this is every penny I have. And I have to drive back. I'm going to have to borrow money from my parents to drive back to St. George. And just for gas. And I'm like, you're going to have to fend for yourself. You know, I can dig you out of the hole, but you got to run from there. I said, you're going to have to call your parents, who are on a mission for the Mormon church. And I said, you're going to have to call the landlord and ask him for a little bit of help, to be patient. And both our landlord and my in-laws are Mormon. I don't want to make anybody feel like I dislike either of these people. My in-laws, with all their shortcomings, are good people. And I'm grateful for them. And I'm grateful that they did come in and help Molly. And my landlord is a great guy who really went out of his way. My former landlord went out of his way to help my wife out and to help me out, help our kids out. I was grateful for these Mormons in my life. But all of them, before they would help us, told Molly to go to the church for help as a litmus test. And when Molly told them, I do tarot readings. I'm more witch than Mormon anymore. I removed my name from the church records years ago during the November 5th policy. And they said they don't care. Church doesn't care. The church will come out and help you. And will do whatever they can to help you. So she did it. She wound up going to the church for help. My wife, my ex-wife, wound up going to the Mormon church for help. If you think I'm proud of that, you don't know me very well. Okay? I would have told her, I did tell her, don't bother with that. I will bail you out. I'll do the best I can. We'll go to my parents for help. We'll go to, we'll do whatever. We'll figure something else out. But she, on her own initiative, she went and she did it. She did the whole supplication. I am a wicked sinner. I can't believe I let God out of my life. Please, will you help me? And the church gave her some food that, I don't know if most of the food produced by the bishop's storehouse, I think, is basically inedible. They gave her a big box of cannery food. And I'm like, this isn't going to cut it. This food is awful. But, I'm like, it's not like they're ungrateful. They took it and they even ate it. And some of it's okay. But I said, no, we got to, all right, I'll see what I can do. Let me see if I can go to my parents for some help. And and then after that was when my father-in-law called my ex-wife and told her, I didn't like having to do that because I know you don't really believe in the church. You have to understand that we don't know what to do. We don't know what else to do. And so we gave you the same line we give all the kids. And then my father-in-law, who is on a mission right now for the church, gave my ex-wife $1,800. Said, have a Merry Christmas. It's easy to paint people with a broad brush, right? I'll tell you another story that's not quite as endearing. I was driving down the street, and I'm proud of this moment. I have my toxic moments. Those of you out there who think I have been working on myself, so I obviously have become a good person while becoming the spiritual leader of the Church of Korihor. Well, let me be perfectly clear with you. I have worked on myself, and I am a much better person. And then I was driving my sister to this lunch where we were meeting with Kevin. And I was stopped at a green light. I was stopped at a green arrow. And a big, like, Ford F-250 was careening down the street. Mormons out there, people down here drive like bats out of hell. People in Utah drive like a bat out of hell, man. This big Ford F-250 is coming at me, and I didn't notice that the light was green until my sister Nikki told me, "Oh, Joe, you got a green light there." "Oh, okay." And I go to turn, and this guy wails on his horn. I mean, wails on his horn as he's hitting his brakes coming up on me. I've been irritated too. I mean, look, I've been driving for what, 25, 30 years. 30 years. Yeah, 45. Yeah, I've been driving for 30 years. I've done this. We've done this. You've done this, right? And I get it. You guys probably having a bad day, whatever. But he just wails on his horn when he could have just gone around me. There was another turn lane, just gone around me. All right. So I beat my horn back at him. I'm like, fuck off, dude. And then that was it. That was the end of it. I don't have to get angry or upset. I don't have to, make a big production out of it. I was irritated that he was irritated, so I just honked my horn at him. So as I honked my horn at him, he veered around me and sped up next to me because big man, right? And here's this guy. He's got to be like 60-something years old. Hey, Jules. He's got to be like 60-something years old at least. I'm barely 20 years older than me. And he starts, and Mister, I gotta be somewhere, gotta be, you're in my way, guy, pulls up alongside me and starts trying to compete with me for the lane. I'm like, okay, whatever. So what did I do? And seriously, guys, this is as far as I plan to go with this. It's like, okay, I'm just, all right, go on, guy, whatever you want to do. But he wanted to be in my life all of a sudden. It was important to this guy that the guy who was stopped in front of him at the intersection knows he's pissed at him. Gave him the signal. Now, here's the thing, you guys. Yes, I am an evolved ape. I am a man who is trying to work through my male toxicity. And I've come far with this. At the same time, I grew up a boy. And I promise there's something valuable in this. I grew up a boy in a culture where if you are going to protect yourself, you have to show a macho man once in a while that I could hurt you. Some of these people, some macho men, they don't understand otherwise. I should have been more thoughtful of the fact that I had my dear sister in the car because it's her car. And because I only realized afterwards, this is a woman who's had to be afraid of men her whole life. And she avoids confrontation with violent men because she could get hurt, seriously hurt. And her way of protecting herself then was to avoid it and shut down. And that's the way it is for a lot of people. My ex-wife is very much the same way. Rather not. I'd rather, it's not even a question of what she wants to do. It's her nervous system responding. She fawns or flees. and I fight. So guys roll. So I flip the guy off. He rolls down. He pulls up next to me at the light, at the next light. Mr. I gotta be somewhere, but he definitely wants to stop and have a conversation with me. Lowers his window. No problem, dude. So I lower my window. And he yells at me, "How long have you been driving?" I looked at him and I yelled, "Longer than you've been fucking senile." And he says, "Oh, I'm fucking senile." He's like, "Somebody drives past you, you don't have a right to." And so I said, "Well, you Mormon piece of shit." Blah, 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 blah. So fuck off. The whole thing, right? The whole, the whole pissing contest, the whole "I'm more macho than you." Inside my head, first of all, none of this is really happening logically. I'm a combative person. This is not the reason why I told you the story. This is the thing I got that was of spiritual significance to me. Spiritual being things that we experience, we move on from, and realize that we are now different. That we commit to making a change. I have this pissing contest with some weird random Mormon on the street, and I'm driving away. He's gone, and as soon as he is gone, and my adrenals just relax. Good. I have lived my whole life. Get up my ire. Let's fight. You want to go? No, you don't want to go? All right, then we don't go. So that's it. That's the end of it. But this has been my whole life. Get up the testosterone, get up the adrenaline, go, let's go, come to blows, let's throw down and fight, or no. No, which almost always no. No? All right, then we're done. But my poor sister was totally triggered. And I felt so bad. The whole time we're out, and she's like, "You really leaned into that guy." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but it's over now. It's over." Because I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, look, macho guys like that." Oh, I didn't mention this. I flipped the guy off. And then he takes this Ford F-250. We're going over a bridge. There is a bridge, the edge of the bridge here, the concrete barrier of the bridge right over here. And he veers into the lane, tries to drive me off the bridge, or more likely into the concrete barrier with my sister in the car, in her car. And that's the point where I said, "Oh, this guy's going to get it." Because in my mind, I immediately know this guy is violent. He wants to hurt somebody today. If he wants to hurt somebody today, in my mind, I'm pulling up. I see his car. I see him stop his truck after I hit the brakes so that I get some distance from him. It's like, "God, fuck you." And I'm like, okay, it's over. Guy got whatever it is, hopefully out of his system. He pulls off, and then he's obviously waiting for me. And there is this split moment for me where I revert back to the boy who's had to defend himself, who's had to bristle up, who's had to proud peacock. And I think to myself, I could die here. This could be how I go. This could be the end of Joe. If I don't square off with this guy right now, what's he going to do? And if I do square off with him, what's he going to do? Split second decision. Because it might make sense to say, well, if I don't if I don't feed this, he'll just get frustrated, pissed off, flip me off, and then drive off, call me a chicken or coward or whatever, and drive away. I know the type. I've been there. I've done this before. And I said, that's not this guy. This guy is going to escalate until he's scared. And then he's going to back off. So I took it right to 11. And I called him a stupid fucking Mormon. And God, light of reason be upon my beloved sister, who is one of the dearest people to me in the whole world, always has been. She was like, "Do you think that guy really was Mormon?" I'm like, "Yes." She's like, What made you think that?" I'm like, "Drives like a fucking asshole." She's like, "All Mormons drive like fucking assholes." I said, "When I'm angry, yes." Of course, I don't think all Mormons drive like fucking assholes. Everybody in this state drives like assholes. I don't know what it is. I think partly it's that they don't do. There's no requirement at all, nor encouragement really at all in this state for people to go through driver's ed. When I was a kid growing up in Arizona, you could get your license without going to driver's ed, but your parents' insurance rates would go. You'd get like a discount on your like auto insurance or something if you got your if you graduated from um, driver's ed. So in our house, and most people that I knew, it's like you're going to driver's ed because we're not paying extra insurance to insure you. And Arizonans drive like crazy people. Have you been to Arizona? We drive like we're all aggressive drivers in Arizona. Here, they're just irresponsible. It's just like, yeah, let's endanger everyone on the road. So, anyways, but of course, not everybody who lives here is Mormon. They're just Mormons. And I've said this before. People laugh at me. I said, look, I know where the Mormons are. It's every time that I'm trying to get somewhere on the I-15. They're all on the I-15. In other words, it's easy to paint people with a broad brush. It's easy to get aggravated with somebody. It's easy to become defensive. And because you feel defensive in yourself and in your body, let that fight or flight instinct start driving you to, drive you to the most extreme, not just in the way you react viscerally in your body, but what you think. That feeds back into your thoughts. And that drove me to think this week about how many, especially as I've been dealing with some questions about toxic masculinity in the XMO space. I had a conversation, I'm not going to say with him. I've had 2 conversations by phone with recognizable women from the ex-Mormon space in this last week, who both, that's right, Jules, who both of them, I invited them to share with this with me, because there has been a contentious confrontation among ex-Mormon creators on YouTube and podcasting space about the way that we treat female creators, women who are creators in the ex-Mormon space. And how, while we ex-Mormons are proud to have deconstructed Mormonism, proud to deconstructed the priesthood, the toxic masculinity of Mormonism follows us. And I'm trying to navigate this, you guys, so carefully. Anytime that I say, you are so frustrated with this, and I can't speak up, I can't be the voice on this, you have to say it for yourselves. If I come out and say something, even if it is to protect you or to advocate for you or to speak about the crisis that you are in, as soon as I put my voice into it with the purest of intentions, it is a dude speaking for women. And I can't do that. I would do it. I want to do it. But it's not appropriate. And I worry, because this is a space where a lot of women who are creators in our ex-Mormon space are afraid to speak up for fear of being retaliated against by men. And I just think, how much harder it is. And I'm sure with ex-evangelicals and ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, it's got to be the same. How much harder it is to deconstruct toxic masculinity than it is to deconstruct religion and even Christianity. Yeah. And the reason why that came to a head for me today, and then I'm going to get off of this, I promise, is while I was in the midst of these conversations and this thought process of going, man, there is healing that has to happen for the women in the ex-Mormon space, because the creators who are women, they are a microcosm of what must be happening at a larger scale, I think. And certainly I saw it in the comments. Okay, I'll address one of these people because it's practically public anyway. One of these people was Beth Magnetic from Mormon True Crime, who has, for all intents and purposes, shut down Mormon True Crime. She and I were going to do podcast episodes together to help our agency, and we were planning to go forward in 2025 making true crime podcasts together. I was super excited about it because I love Beth with all my heart. I love Beth. She's been going through a lot because she is supporting a child who is neurodivergent and has serious illness. And I backed up and said, look, we have these plans and they are on hold for as long as you need on hold. And then the next thing I knew, she was talking about either quitting podcasting altogether or at least quitting it in the ex-Mormon space. And I am sitting here like, no, wait a minute, no, let's put on hold for as long as, but we can't lose Beth's voice in this space. Part of that is personal crisis. She's got to support her family, and I get that. But part of it was, I just discovered this last couple of weeks that her voice she feels like her voice is being drowned out because she's a woman. And I think this has to change, you guys. This has to change. We cannot have women being afraid to speak in ex-Mormon spaces. Because they're afraid of being retaliated against by men in the ex-Mormon space. And I'm like, how much of this am I allowed to even say? How much of this can I say? But what do we expect other people to do? Again, it's this empowering women to speak in this space is also burdening women with emotional labor. So it's not appropriate for me to ask, well, look, just, sacrifice a little bit, put yourself in a little bit of danger, go out there and speak up. I can't ask that of anyone. I can't say that to anyone. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know the fear they have. And it reminded me of this road rage incident with my sister. I'm like, I really am not cognizant most of the time of the fact that this person, by virtue of being raised a woman in the Mormon space, has had a completely different interaction with male rage than I have had growing up as a boy. As a boy, it's scary. Male rage for boys is scary until you hit a growth spurt. You start growing some muscles, you gain some weight, you learn how to throw it around, and you learn how to predict, does this person know how to fight? And as a male, that's how I learned how to gauge every situation. Oh, what are you going to do? Are you going to fight? Do you know how to fight? Looking at me, do you think I know how to fight? Are we really two grown men here about to throw down and fight? And at some point, with 99% of interactions, the answer is no. We want to get in each other's face. We want to do our proud peacock dance. Macho, macho. No, macho, macho me. No, macho, macho you. Oh, you want to macho, macho with me? I'm macho, macho, macho. And it's like, let's go. And meanwhile, and this is very much plays into the spiritual growth I have been doing for the past 20 years, for 20 years of marriage, of not realizing how, in my mind, a confrontation between A and B, me and you, guy, let's go. Let's face off. Let's do the proud peacock. Come on. How every woman around us, even women we don't know, their nervous systems fly to fight, flight, or fawn, or freeze. And for so many women that we love in our lives, it's freeze. And it's just it's been only since I was a husband and a father, now an ex-husband, that I have gone through these various degrees of being able to acknowledge that my choices affect others, not because I am responsible for how other people feel, but because because I'm responsible for the harm that I cause. And that is a kind of responsibility that, if it were integrated into our concept of masculinity, it would be so much less toxic. And I think part of the problem with that is that, it's a thing that all humans have to do. That just happens to be more needful, I feel, right now among men and boys. That's why I try to teach it to my sons. But I grew up I grew up in the defend yourself by being dangerous. And I've said this before to mixed reviews, mixed input, feedback. A lot of the voices that encouraged me in that growing up, you need to be dangerous so that you have the respect of others, were not male voices. They were females. They were the girls who said, I want a guy who'll stick up for me. If you're going to be a pansy, you're not going to stick up for me. You're not going to show, if you can't, show somebody that you're willing to fight for me. If you're not willing to stick up for yourself, how are you going to stick up for me when the time comes? And I'm not blaming any of them for this. I'm just saying this is the nature of this gender role dynamic, which is holy and divine, and I have no reason to challenge it. And shame on me for if I should ever oppose what the plan that Lord Jesus has for us in our life. Okay, friends over at Langley. Okay, is that good? Is that good? Okay, great. These gender roles, they have boxed us into believing that the harm that men cause to women is necessary. And that if men don't abide by it, they should be punished. What happens if you can't be dangerous? What are you? You're a loser. You're a sissy. You're a ninny. You're namby-pamby. Whatever it is. Whatever you want, all right? And so it just happens to be, not by any coincidence or miracle, but just so happens to be that all that happens in the same week that the Epstein files were supposed to be released. And some of them at least have been released, I guess. I guess we'll always have that. Jury's out, I guess, on how much wasn't released and whether or not we'll ever see those. But once again, you see this thing. Jules knows about this. Jules knows what it's like to grow up in the midst of toxic masculinity and have all those nervous system reactions. As a human being, we all have them. We all have this autonomic nervous system, right, Jules? We all do it. We all fight, flight, or freeze. The culture that we have tips us towards one or the other. Do you fight, do you flight, or do you freeze or fawn? And then, and so often, not always, so often though, it does divide along gender lines. And then we have people who get their autonomic nervous system worked up about saying that, about gender, about saying that gender is a social construct. Now all of a sudden they have to get pissed off. Why do you bring that up? How is that true? That's exactly the conversation we've just been having, isn't it? Is it that girls biologically, by the basis of the glands that are in their body or the hormones they produce, that females, people who are born assigned female at birth, that they are not capable of fighting and defending themselves? That's not true, is it? People train small girls who have small frames. It's not small like young. I'm sure they start training them young, but who have a small frame and not a lot of muscle mass, train them to defend themselves, send them to self-defense classes to train them. This is how you take somebody twice your size and throw him. And they do it. And those girls are terrifying. Okay? Physiologically, there's no reason a girl can't defend herself physically. Why she can't decide to accelerate that confrontation to violence. The social expectation is that if a man puts you in danger, be grateful that he at least is dangerous enough to protect you. And then we have all these young women, because they needed money, because they wanted respect, because they needed male role models in their life, end up in the clutches of men like Jeffrey Epstein. And we're supposed to say that is the responsibility and fault of these men who would exploit these young women, these girls. Certainly they bear the worst of the responsibility. But did we or did we not create the conditions? Did we and coincidence and circumstances not create the conditions that drove those girls into the arms of these predators? By making them respect the dangerous men, by making them desire dangerous men, or at least to make them aware that if you catch the right kind of dangerous man, you may be safe from other dangerous men. We created this problem. And I think that part of that is why we all are so worked up about the fact that nobody's getting punished for it. That the closest we're getting is Andrew. Prince Albert's different. It's a different thing, friends. There were Princes Albert, but no, Prince Andrew can't become king. Oh boy. Now he can't become king and he has to go get a job, which is probably what? He's going to get he probably is, on the board of directors of probably half a dozen pharmaceutical corporations as it is. He's probably going to be fine. And is he going to prison? Let's hope. Let's hope. Here in England, is it ever going to happen? Who else is going, I don't know if you guys saw this, but they published pictures among those documents released today were numerous pictures of Jeffrey Epstein on his stupid Lolita Express airplane with Noam Chomsky. Noam fucking Chomsky? Are you kidding me? I mean, it was a moment that I looked at it and I said, be AI, be artificially generated. No. Real. Noam Chomsky. I posted on my Facebook and I said, all right, fair enough. Chomsky's out. I've had a lot of respect for this man. Okay. Frankly, I had a lot of respect for Bill Clinton. I knew the allegations against Bill Clinton. Far beyond Monica Lewinsky. Let's face it. For all the hell that poor woman has been put through. How much of that is her fault? Yes, she lured, Hillary would want everybody to know she lured my husband with her what? Her young body, her inexperience, her desire for a man to recognize her, a powerful man to recognize her, to love her, to feel special. How dare you? Jezebel. What do you expect a girl her age to do when the most powerful man in the world shines the light of his attention on her? And for a small sacrifice of some intimacy, she could be Marilyn Monroe. And frankly, who wouldn't want to be? Unless, of course, you remember what happens to Marilyn Monroe. But, you have that situation. And then all those other women who accused Bill Clinton. Are some of them lying? Maybe. But frankly, who would do that? For the amount of hell they catch, who would do that? Who would want to go through that? There's nothing glamorous about that. And it's like Harvey Weinstein. In Hollywood, there was a long time. I didn't work in Hollywood, but I worked Hollywood adjacent. There was a long time after the first accusations of Harvey Weinstein came out, a lot of us would say, it's just not possible. Harvey Weinstein is one of the most well-respected producers. He's a genius, and he is. As far as producers go, he was the guy who took independent filmmaking mainstream and made it possible for people to make money using a proven system that became basically known as the Weinstein system, he and his brother. And for a while, people said, I remember people all around me saying, I don't know how it's possible that this happened and none of us had ever heard it. And then it was when Selma Hayek, I believe, came out with her accusations that people went, oh shit. Then all of a sudden everybody had to take it seriously. And then all these women started coming out of the woodwork who felt like they couldn't break the silence until she did. That she gave them the strength to come out and say it. So to say, oh no, some women, whatever, fill in the blank, misogynistic thing. I don't even want to put any more misogynistic phrases coming out of my mouth right now because I'm just so disgusted with myself even saying this much. But we find ourselves in a situation where it's like Bill Clinton, who was surprised? Oh yeah, Donald Trump came out and said, yeah, Bill Clinton was on those planes. Yeah, well, we expect that from Bill Clinton. And did we clap for him? Yeah. When he gave like that fiery speech at the DNC when President Obama ran for re-election, and everybody said, wow, who let Bill Clinton overshadow President Obama? Wasn't it President Obama? Who let President Clinton overshadow President Obama with this amazing speech? And the whole time, every person who said that, I'm remembering some things from days when I was more politically active. How many of us knew this man assaulted women? Never mind shady business deals in Arkansas. We knew that. We've known that the whole time. I was alarmed as I got politically active, well after the 90s were over, how many people all over in both parties knew in the 90s Bill Clinton was dirty with political corruption, rife with political corruption. Everybody knew it in the 90s. They looked the other way because they just didn't want the moral majority to have dominance. We got talked into believing, yeah, maybe he assaults women, maybe he makes, dirty money on the side. Maybe he's bought and purchased by the financial sector. But what do you want? Be realistic. All of your politicians are going to be corrupt. And I'm sitting here going, and I can only look at it now with retrospect and say, it's one thing to vote for him. It's another thing to say, to be silent and say everybody shut up about the man's past. Vote for him because he's not the other guy. But say, I don't like what he did to that girl. I don't like what he did. And where's the cutoff? At some point, we have to, this whole lesser evil problem we have, not just with politics, but with the movies we consume, with the celebrities we allow into the space and that we platform. It's frustrating, man. Anyway, we were having fun, and then I started to rant about toxic masculinity. I felt like it's needful because right now in the ex-Mormon space, in the ex-Mormon creator space, it's become important to me. I'm going to say this carefully. I don't want there to be a political litmus test for my brothers in the ex-Mormon creator space. But in the age of the Epstein files, in the age of making people disappear for having the wrong opinions. I mean, if somebody commits a crime, okay. I don't know how many of you know this, but I wish I knew the woman's name. There's a trans woman down here in southern Utah. Earlier this year, made a lot of people in the LGBTQIA plus community feel very uncomfortable when she terminated her parents. And it became a big to-do here because the newspaper misgendered her in the original headlines. And the community reacted to say, I'm sorry, those are not that person's pronouns. If you're going to say murdered parents, put she and her in there because those are her pronouns. But of course, as soon as this happens, the whole community, which is very conservative down here in southern Utah, started saying trans. And it fed into this narrative that the conservatives have, in spite of abundant abundant evidence to the contrary of believing that people who are trans are more violent than cisgender people. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? To where creators in the Mormon space, I'm going on. Okay, I'm just doing it. I'm going with this. Okay, guys. Sometimes you know me, I go off on a tear. Greg Mattson from Quick Media. If you don't know, maybe you're better off. Mormon apologist went on John Delen's podcast on Mormon Stories. Not saying he's not allowed, not saying that it was a bad idea, not saying, I'm not saying any such thing, okay? Just being clear. John can have on who he wants. It's a good get. I've had Jacob Hansen on my podcast. I've had Mormons on my podcast. It's fine. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been on. I'm just saying every time that I have watched as Greg Mattson goes off about trans people being violent, I have seen him ranting about the community. I will. I'll try to, Jules. And it infuriates me. And I have to do a lot of letting go and saying, I'm not going to let this person's anti-trans rhetoric ruin my day, but I am going to feel it right now and let it come up. I'm not going to quash it down. That's just going to poison all of me to pretend like it doesn't piss me off. It pisses me off. As a person who loves trans people in my life, and as a person who believes in equality, pisses me off. And every time we platform people who defend predators and don't mention the predation or don't allow at least some mention of the predation. Talked about this just yesterday about how Karen Hyatt had her interview on Mormon Stories, and John was a gracious host. Not saying he shouldn't be, not saying that he isn't. That's right, Jules. But I understand and respect the right of this person to say that she wants to defend Joseph Smith against accusations of his starting polygamy because she believes that he's a good person, without mentioning that means what you're saying is that people who support polygamy are bad people. And if you're going to say that, say it. Because that's something we can actually use in our society because polygamy still exists. And Mormon polygamy is trafficking. And we can do something about it. And as we acknowledge that and make it visible, it's been shown, it's been proven that more women have been liberated from this cycle of human trafficking because it's on TV, because people can talk about it, and because it's no longer illegal to practice polygamy. And so now these women can come out from hiding and ask for help. If we can't see it and we can't talk about it, we sure as hell are never going to address it. And defending Joseph Smith is the prerogative of any person who wants to do it. Okay? In my book, I'm just going to state clearly here, it's like defending Jeffrey Epstein. You're allowed to. It's like defending Bill Clinton. You're allowed to. It's like defending Bill Cosby. You're allowed to. You're allowed to. I'm not saying you're not allowed to. You're allowed to. Speak your truth. But somebody call it out. You're defending a predator. Joseph Smith was a predator. If we men, and I'm not going, I don't mean to preach to women about what they should do or shouldn't do or what they should say or shouldn't say. That's not my objective. More than anything else, I want to preach here, and I know I'm getting preachy, but I do it. I want to call out men particularly. We need to, in small spaces and public spaces, call out predators and predation. And it's beyond, far beyond the commission of an act of violence against a person described in the actual physical act. It's beyond the physical act. It's beyond the danger, the physical danger. It's the threat of danger. The physical danger is critically important to recognize, but it's the threat of the physical danger that people around us, not just women, but children, not just women and children, but homosexual people and trans people and people who don't fit conventional gender roles. I'm not saying, dear friends in Washington, that there isn't that yeah, not promoting any. I'm just saying I think we have to be more careful as men of recognizing that by existing in a space where people who are not male at birth, assigned male at birth, by being in that space, we are elevating the stakes for harm, and the pressure from the threat of harm is constant. And I wish I'd known that earlier in my marriage. I wish I had known that earlier in raising children. I wish I'd known that earlier in life. I wish I'd known that earlier in dating. I wish I had known that earlier in growing up in a household where there were more women than more females than males. And realizing only as an adult, well, I guess that's true. And having at least one, only as an adult did I come to realize that all my life I have been a threat. And that every time that I learned to defend myself by showing that I was capable of violence, I was making every woman in my life, every female in my life, feel unsafe. And that was too much for a boy like me to learn, especially in a system where nobody was going to say it. Nobody was going to talk to me about this. Because if I learned to be dangerous, good. He's going to have to learn to protect himself. Well, yes, of course, I had to learn how to protect myself against boys. But I also had to learn as part of masculinity. I wish I had also learned to think of just being here in a space, whether it's physically or just being present in the larger space. Again, like I say, my being in the ex-Mormon content creator space puts me in a situation where I am reinforcing the paradigm, where people have to, where I'm sure there's somebody out there who's afraid to piss me off or to say something about me not doing enough. I'm sure they're out there. And I wish I could recognize all of them. And I want people to know, I'm not trying to toot my horn here. I'm just trying to, I do want to demonstrate what I am doing to do better. That I have asked people like Maven. I have asked people like Beth. I have asked people like Jenny. I leaned, you guys remember our time with Jenny. I leaned hard on Jenny. And I still talk to her. I talked to her just the other day. Jenny and I are very good friends. Still. And I talked to Molly, talked to my ex. I've talked to my mother, talked to my sisters. Well, I talked to one sister. I don't talk to the other sister at all, sadly. And I ask, do you remember me being violent? Do you remember me? Have I hurt you with my anger? Have I made you feel unsafe? Do I do things now that make you feel unsafe? Are you afraid to call me out? Do you, and even with my partner Winter, who's probably been the biggest force for good in my life when it comes to, especially when it comes to things like this, because I know I can rely on them to tell me the truth. And I ask, do it make you feel unsafe? When I'm around, do you remember times that I've made you feel unsafe in the past? Will you tell me the truth? And they do. Yeah, there are moments where I was scared. And I have to ask them, I have to tamp down that toxic male capacity, that male tendency, reinforced by toxic male culture, toxic masculine culture, to say, I love you, Nikki. I wanted to highlight that comment, but I'm not going to, because that'd be very egotistical of me. It makes a big difference to me that you think so. If we don't make a change where men are willing to call out men, nothing will change. And the fact that we weren't raised that way, nobody explained that to us when we were kids, doesn't change anything. Makes it unfair. Oh, well, then it's unfair. Then it's unfair. Okay. Do it anyway. That's all I can think. I got to do it anyway. Because if there's anything that I have the courage to do when I try to build myself back up while I'm in the midst of all this neuroticism, I try to remind myself the one thing I have always been good at, whether it's with the church, whether it's with political opinions, whether it's with my willingness to debate or my willingness to engage in road rage, is that I'm willing to speak truth to power. I'm willing to call it out. And I'm willing to assume the risk, and I'm willing to be publicly shamed if that's what it takes. And I'm willing to say I'm sorry. And I'm willing to be humiliated. And, I'm willing to have that happen if it means being able to stop and say, but if I'm part of this, then it stops. I'm stopping it. I can speak truth to the power within me, and say, I'm not going to do that anymore. And how I wish that I could not only go back and take away the hurt that I have caused others in the process of learning that, but how I wish I could go to especially all of the assigned female at birth persons and all women. I don't even know how to approach imagining what it's like for trans women other than to ask them. It's another name, Evan Charlie. I've asked Evan, I'm sorry, did I do something? Did I hurt you by saying this? I wish you would tell me. I tell you this story. I've told this story before. Some of you may have heard, maybe not. And I'm going to just briefly touch on it because now I know I am full on ranting past 2 hours now. You guys know Evan Charlie, who is a trans woman, who I am very glad to say I've communicated with as recently, and is apparently in a safe place. And that is a big relief to me because there was a scare. And I had a conversation with her after my conflict. This is just like another one of these road rage situations where a man and I faced off. And the man's name is David Fairman. He's the head of a Mormon church, a small Mormon church that believes in Kabbalistic practices. More power to them. And we faced off in Stephen Pineker's Utah Interfaith Forum on Facebook when I had posted something about the Church of Korihor when the Church of Korihor was brand new. And I was excited. And I started posting some of our new hymns, and I started posting, that we were having sermons. We were up to like sermon 4, and a godless sermon 4, and I had posted it because there were some people in this Mormon-dominated Facebook page were prominent people from these different Mormon churches and other churches who were actually encouraging, hey, cool, great. Welcome to the club. And this is great. This is interesting. And then I had a handful of Mormons who said, this was funny, the first 2 or 3 posts you put it in here. And then started highlighting me to Steve Pineker and saying, why is this guy allowed in here with his jokes about our religion? This is our religion. This is our faith. And I said, whoa, who said anything about your faith? Who said anything about your faith? And they're like, the Church of Korihor? That's very funny. I said, it's not meant to be. You can laugh. That's fine. I don't mind being laughed at. But I didn't invent the Church of Korihor to make fun of you. The Church of Korihor is a church. You don't like it, you can ask the state of Utah. You can ask the Internal Revenue Service. You can go to our website. You can listen to our hymns. You can enjoy one of our godless sermons. We're a church. And people tell me today, I posted some content for us in a new Facebook forum down here in Southern Utah for the first time in the post-Mormon community down here. And people saying, is this satire? What's this? And people saying, you post about things. I had more than one woman post something in a comment saying, you're talking about doing retreats, hosting retreats for women to heal from religious trauma. And it's like one of the things that's most important to me in my life right now. And posting it on part of the Church of Korihor. And as soon as I see that, I get turned off. And I say, I get that. And I said, is it church or Korihor that turns you off on that? Same thing, by the way, with that book. I asked women, because women read more books than men. When I published the Korihor argument, I asked women. I put up a poll. I put up like a forum post on, I think, the ex-Mormon Facebook group. And I said, this book, I thought it would sell better. I want to learn. What is it about? I made this book cover thinking that women would find it interesting and attractive. I designed it specifically for that reason. You guys are going to see my flip. Sorry for that. Because I could have put it all kinds of ways. I could have featured Korihor on the cover. I said, here's what it is. I'm going to take a picture that, luckily I found a picture that looks almost exactly like me when I was 19 years old. And I laid it out and I said, some woman's going to see that and think when she's looking at the top of this, that guy's kind of cute. Then read the Korihor argument and say, Korihor, that's like the guy from the Book of Mormon. A missionary's journey from out of Mormonism. And it's going to think, oh, I want to see. And then I found out, first of all, the first batch of books that were bought, this was years before AI. The new cover was made by AI, and it looks exactly like me. Unfortunately, I lost the manuscript. I'm still trying to find it so I can come up with the second edition of the core horror argument. I might have to give up on it, but the thing that women brought up to me, that candidly told me, they said, it's that word right there, argument. I see that word, more than one woman told me. I see that word and think, and I get immediately turned off because I don't want to get into an argument. And then this moment of going, don't argue right now. Right now, if ever, don't argue with the person who says, I don't want to get into an argument. I say, right. Can I ask you a question? Just a question. Is it not immediately obvious that the Korihor argument, while a debate, yes, is an argument, it's referring to a philosophical argument. Korihor makes an argument for critical thinking. And the answer was, you wanted my, and more, again, more than one person said, look, you wanted my response. That was my response. I see that word and I'm turned off. And I thought, that didn't even occur to me, that I could be triggering somebody's need defense, somebody's defensive mechanism, somebody's need to feel safe with a word like argument. I went, I got to go back to the drawing board. I didn't think about this. It's part of the reason why I haven't updated that book yet. I might just abandon it because, frankly, I got so many new things to talk about. But anyways, I got into this conflict with this guy. His name is David Fairman. And he posted this comment on one of my videos that I had posted in there about how Korihor died a beggar because his faith in God wavered, and because he was influenced by the devil, because he was a liar. Now, I grant you, Korihor lies in the story of Korihor. The question is, does he lie when he says he doesn't believe in God, or when he says he did believe in God? That's one of the things I find endearing about Korihor, is that he's human. And I said, but the part that pisses me off is you mocking about Korihor, who's a fictional character. I'm not here to defend him. But when you say died a beggar, it sounds like you're being very, very dismissive of the danger and harms to unsheltered people. And having started a church whose first mission is going out to serve unsheltered people and meeting people out on the streets who are in constant danger, it pisses me off. And I think that you should apologize. He responded aggressively, and I responded aggressively, and he responded aggressively to that, and I responded aggressively to that, and frankly, won that argument. And then found myself getting kicked out of the group for being contentious when he's, and so I told him off. I took a screen capture of that conversation because I was salty and I have some healing to do. And I posted that on Facebook. First elder of the Fellowship of Christ. This is the conversation we had. You kicked me out of the group, but you can't make the conversation not happen. And pointed out and said, this is how Christians, this is the problem with Christians and their lip service. And did this whole thing. Next thing I knew, I had Steve Pinecker in my DMs. Hey, man, was that necessary? No. But I did it. And he's like, you got under his skin. He got under your skin. You guys had it out. If you knew David Fairman, you'd think he was a pretty cool guy. I said, he's welcome to DM me personally. Does he want to apologize? It's like, well, no, he doesn't know I'm contacting you. I said, well, I don't know why you're sticking up for him. I'm like, he's not even, I'm sure he's fine. And I'm like, look, I'm a salty person too. He wants to get in somebody's grill. He can get up in my grill and I'll give it to him. I'll give it right back to him. No problem. And then I got contacted by, who was the second person who contacted me? I don't remember now. Another person. Hey, is it Rob Lauer? No, not Rob. It was another person in the Mormon, ex-Mormon content creator space who contacted me to say, hey, David Fairman's a cool guy. Maybe you guys should talk and bury the hatchet, because whatever. And I said, that's fine. My DMs are open. He's welcome to come in and apologize to me whenever he wants. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. He's got too much pride. You've got too much pride. If you're not the one to go out there and bury the hatchet, that's just not going to happen. Whatever. Honestly, I don't even think about it. I laugh about it and then I don't even think about it. Then Evan Charlotte contacted me. Hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm great. This thing with David Fairman, she said, it puts me in an awkward position because I like you. We're friends. But he and I are also friends. I'm like, really? With that guy? Did you see what he said? And she said, yeah. She said, I don't know where that came from, because that's not him. And I'm like, okay, well, tell the guy who posted that. And she's like, I just think that you two just went at it, toxic masculinity style, and brought out the worst of each other. And I thought, okay, she's not wrong. That is what happened. But I won, so I didn't feel bad about it. I feel I won. Everybody feels like they won when it's a toxic masculinity battle, right? And I said, why, Evan? Why? And she said, did you know that half of the people in his quorum of the 12, in their church, they have 12 apostles, they're a Mormon church. Half of them threatened to leave when he published a statement in support of declaring that his church would start solemnizing gay marriages and recognizing trans people. I didn't know that. I don't know this guy from Adam's Odd Ox. I said, he did that? And she said, yeah, he did that. And she said, and no other church apart from the Community of Christ. And Evan's been part of the Community of Christ. She knows the good and bads when it comes to the Community of Christ. And there is, believe it or not, in the reorganized church, there are bads. And she says nobody else in the Mormon space has stood up for the LGBTQIA plus like David Fairman has. And then she sent me pictures of her standing with him proudly. Shit. I'm like, damn it. Okay, so I'm the asshole. All right. So I published a public statement. And I said, look, I still am not going to go out of my way to apologize to him. But because on my Facebook page, I had posted this conversation with David Fairman, I just wanted to follow it up and say, I was angry. I should have reasoned it out better. And now, because people have reached out to me, specifically from the gay and trans and queer community, saying that I have shot my arrow over the house and hurt a brother, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I'm a grown-ass man. I should have thought it through in the moment when I thought, is this what a grown-up does? Is this what a man I can be proud to be does? And the moment I said no inside my head, I should have let that voice prevail. And I didn't. So, for what it's worth, my feelings on David Berriman have gone in the past week. This is a bit over the course of a week. From I hope he dies in a fire to I hope he trips and falls. There, it's as close as you can get for me. And since then, my feeling has since become, as I have observed from a distance, the way David Berriman and his group do things. I've still never contacted him to apologize because I don't feel like I need to. But I actually have some modicum of respect for what he and his group are doing, trying to bring Jewish customs and Jewish traditions into a spiritual paradigm for people who are uncomfortable with the Mormon church's prejudice towards the queer community. And frankly, I don't know that this is stated anywhere in their documents or that this represents their feelings. So please don't think I speak for them. But I, as an observer, look at it and say, and the anti-Semitism in Mormonism. And to think that somebody can take that and bridge that divide and make a Kabbalistic faith for Mormons who don't fit this paradigm, the traditional paradigm, and make a spiritual path for them to grow as people who believe in a Jewish spiritual tradition, it's admirable. Not something I want to do, but it's admirable. And so that's where I am now. These spiritual paths that we go through, I think it's important for us all. It's been important to me to acknowledge on an even hand, on one side, I have caused harm. I've hurt somebody. Even sometimes it feels unfair because you're like, I wasn't even aware I was hurting somebody. I did, though. I did. I caused harm. And counterbalance that for me with this self-esteem, which is the harder part for me. If I were a more egotistical person, probably would be easier, frankly. To bring it up and say, okay, but I didn't know that I was hurting them. One. Number two, I can't go back and change it. Or I would. And at the same time, all I can do is, but I acknowledge it and I feel it. I feel the guilt, if you want to call it that, in so much that guilt is a drive to change, a willingness to change, and to do better in the future. And so that's why, as my marriage has ended, I can look back and say, and on even two hands here, I hurt Molly for 20 years. I made her feel unsafe. And the voice that would counteract that and try to justify it with, never once in 20 years of marriage did I raise my hand in violence to that woman or her children who are my children. This voice inside of me, this masculinity voice, whether that's toxic or not. And I know it's toxic to some extent. This expectation of a responsibility as the man to be protector of that. Nonetheless, inside of me, if I'm going to survive with knowing on this side over here that there were times when my battle to contain my own rage not even at them, but my rage with the church, my rage with drivers on the road. Okay, thanks, stranger. That toxic masculinity, that rage, while I felt like I was keeping it under control, just having to contain it put her in a position where she was triggered by all of the past trauma she had with men in her life. Growing up, where every man who lived in her household, even though I love my brothers-in-law, my father-in-law very dearly, was a threat. Whether or not they actually ever hurt her or were willing to, they were a threat all the time. Every man that she dated was a threat. Every man she didn't want to date was a threat. And while I know what it's like to be afraid of men, I don't know what it's like to feel that constant fear. And, you guys remember when I broke down and cried doing a godless sermon from the back of my van when I was parked in the Mormon mall on the day that I did my godless sermon out in front of the conference center during conference, about how it, as my marriage wound to a close, I came to realize that the story of people in my life who are afraid of me just because I am a man, who the stakes for their safety were raised. Very fitting. The stakes were automatically raised because there is a man in the space. Whether or not I am dangerous, whether or not they should be afraid of me, whether or not I have healed my toxic masculinity and am trying to become better, or whether or not I hurt people, my just being a man, fair or unfair, in that space makes that space more dangerous, whatever it is. And it's this balancing act of being able to say, okay, in me, this could consume me, this guilt of having put so many people, triggered so many people just by existing in the space, that if I didn't counteract that with a little egotism that says, what do you want me to do? Change what I am? Okay. No. Oh, it's not my fault that I am a man. It's not my fault that I am a man who had to learn how to protect himself by being aggressive. That's not my fault. Nobody explained to me. And all those things are fair points. They're just not points that make the other thing not true. And I feel like that's what I remember reading the book, The Will to Change, by somebody throw me a bone here. The author of the Will to Change, the same one who wrote The Love, something of Love. Bell Hooks. Thank you, Google. No problem, angry man. Bell Hooks' book, which was recommended to me by Winter, who also then, as I was reading it, said, you know what, maybe you better not read this. This might not actually be good for you. I'm like, I'm too late now. But Bell Hooks was talking about how when she had this quote, I talked about it in one of my godless sermons about toxic masculinity, about how her entire experience growing up in her household and her family of origin, that women and children, that she and her mother and her siblings felt like they were constantly waiting for her father to die, and that it was a constant thing. That even if you love this man, his presence, even if he didn't hurt you physically, his presence was so domineering and dominating that even loving him, they couldn't wait for him to die or get out of their space so that they could have the space to themselves. This is about one time when Winter said, I don't know if this is the right book for you right now, Joe. I'm like, well, this is too bad we're in it now. And then she mentioned the story about another feminist, and I really wish I could remember that person's name off the top of my head, but names are slipping for me these days. About how she was she was helping her father tend to his ranch when he had a heart attack. And she got on her cell phone, and she got on her cell phone and called 911, and they said, just be there with him, check in with him while we get an ambulance out to you, but it's going to be a while because they were out in the country. And in the time that that she was waiting for the ambulance to get to her, her father died in her arms. And she said that she had said in her book that it was as her father was dying in her arms that was the first time she realized that she had never before felt like she could touch her father's body until he was dying in her arms. And how sad that was for her, that she had missed out on a lifetime of a consensual, platonic intimacy with her father because she just felt like it wasn't safe. Even though he had never hurt her, she couldn't have just normal contact, a hug, a handshake, a put your arm around. She didn't feel ever like she could have physical contact with her father. And this is to think that in our society, how many women are living like this? It didn't even occur to me till I was a grown man. Anyway, all of this came up because of the stupid fucking Epstein files. And the interview that I saw one of these interviews today with one of the victims. I'm trying to remember what was this on Midas Touch? Something like that. No, I think it was a mainstream news channel. Anyway, that they asked her, what do you think about now? What do you think Virginia Giuffre would be feeling if she were alive today? And she said immediately, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope somebody prepared you for that question. I hope that was asked very carefully because, of course, if you know, you know. And this woman said, I wish I could tell Virginia that Prince Andrew has been publicly shamed by by the royal family. She'll never get to know that. I thought. She's like, she'll never get to know that because she's gone. And would that have given her some closure? Would it have made her bold to speak up more and say, he's still out there? He still could be doing, for all we know, he's out there doing this to other girls right now. Would it made her more bold than she was to come out and say, These other men were there. And they still, after a year of fighting over releasing these files, they're still out there. Nobody's moving to arrest anybody. And, that sets me off today. That set me off today because I have spent all week fretting about how the Justice Department has doubled down on saying we can arrest you for thought crimes. These men are guilty of crimes, and nobody's doing anything. And meanwhile, they get to go out there, some of them, not naming names, and say, oh, I've been pushing for them to expose it all from the very beginning. Oh, good. Yeah, great. Who gets to tell them? Who gets to speak truth to power? The media, I'm still surprised every time that I see somebody on CNN or ABC or CBS say, so-and-so, no mentioning names, calls for transparency now because he wants to pretend like he was on the right side from the beginning. But we all know the truth. And part of the truth is now going to be forever. These are the moments when the small decisions make a big difference. The decision is going to be the decision every day to pretend like you're not covering it up is going to compact covering it up. If it only hadn't happened just a couple of weeks after Wade Christopherson turned himself in for abusing all those people. I'm going to be careful because we've used a lot of loaded words here. And that question that every ex-Mormon has had on our lips in the past few weeks, and every Mormon should have on their lips and on their minds and on their hearts. And yet, how many of you ex-Mos out there, if you're listening, know a Mormon who's Wade Christopherson? I don't even know who that is. His name is Todd Christopherson. His name is Tom Christopherson. Who's Wade Christopherson? How can you not know? And so many, how many of you out there know somebody inside the Mormon sphere, inside the Mormon ecosystem, who in the past couple of years has stopped consuming the news or stopped talking about current events because every day there's something there to trigger them, and they see it as a challenge to their faith, so they stop looking for it. Mormons are not nearly the whole of it. There are people right now, people to hear this in the ex-Mormon space, because I don't know of anybody else, although I don't listen to a lot of ex-Mo content, not nearly as much as I probably should. I don't know anybody else who's talking about this. Do you know that in the ex-Jehovah's Witness space, they're talking about how the Jehovah's Witnesses may very soon will probably no longer exist? The rampant abuse of children in the Jehovah's Witnesses over the course of the last, as far as anyone can tell from the beginning, has all come to exposure. Is coming to exposure all over the place. It just started in Norway. Now it's in America. What started out as, they were basically outed as a cult in Norway, not a legitimate religion. And from there, brought out this cascade of abuse claims by people who were abused by prominent members of their kingdom halls all around the world. And it's just this domino effect, where virtually every Jehovah's Witness out there has to live in a level of denial that is protecting a system of predation that has hurt their own family members, and in many cases, it has to be, in at least some of these cases, has to be they themselves, what they have to say at some level within themselves. Yes, so and so did this to me, but that was just part of growing up. I don't even know what they'll say to justify it in their head and say, "Oh, God forgave them because they repented." I don't even know what. And while Mormons are dealing with it in our community on a scale we still can't contemplate, the Mormon church is now one of the most financially powerful institutions in the world. And the Jehovah's Witnesses, they may go extinct in the next few weeks. The RLDS, same situation. Well, I don't know about abuse in the community of Christ. From what I understand, generally speaking, well, I don't think we know how much has existed there. Probably nowhere near as much as the main LDS. But I don't know. No, I don't. We don't know what we don't know. But because they don't have a vast real estate empire and massive holdings on Wall Street, the story now is that the Community of Christ may sell their temple lot to the LDS Church, while at a time when Mormons more increasingly and more than ever are talking almost every day, it seems, at least the content creators. I listen to Rise Zion. I listen to Zion Media. I listen to Quick Media when I have to. I listen to Ward Radio much more than I should. They're talking about the second coming of Jesus all the time. And the feeling among Mormons is that they got to get their temple site back in Jackson County, Missouri, to usher in the end of the world. Armageddon. They talk about it like with giddiness and excitement. Do you realize what that means? If the end of the world comes, don't care. I don't see how we're seeing this as a healthy spiritual movement to say we can have this percentage of our populace craving an all-out war, a crusade on sinners. I can't help but think, if I were in the Mormon Church's leadership, you guys know this is, shamefully one of my favorite games, what would I hope would happen? I would wish that I could go back and say, look, the second coming of Jesus happened. It happened on the date Joseph Smith predicted. You all know that Joseph Smith predicted when the second coming would happen, and then it didn't, right? Big surprise. I would just come out and say, look, it happened on that day, just nobody was around. God changed his plan on how it's revealed. Now we're living in the millennium, so everybody can stop waiting for the end of the world. Because right now, there are Mormons who are gathering ammunition, they're gathering fuel, they're gathering food, they're gathering water, they're building places of refuge. There's a full-on prepper community of Mormons prepping for the end of the world. In a way, in talking with boldness about how they are willing to fight. And how long are we going to pretend like we can feed powder into this powder keg without it going off? The Mormon Church is in a unique position to do something about it, and they're not going to. They're not going to. Well, let's hope I'm wrong. Anyway, I've ranted for long enough. I hope some of you who are here for the temple movie scene enjoyed it. I think it's always good for us to do these late nights on Friday nights, mainly because Mormon Discussions is over, done with theirs, and it's fun. I think it's fun to see you guys to see you guys in the comments, know that you're out there, and I really hope that you guys are well, and I hope that we're going to begin to heal as a community in this country. I wish I didn't feel responsible to talk so much about how America needs to heal. But I do. Because I'm in this and I've supported it for so long. And I don't want the dream to go away. And in the past 10 years or so, specifically, I really do feel that George Carlin called it out when he said they call it the American dream because you have to be fucking asleep to believe it. And it's true more than ever before. In any event, in the spirit of the giving session, I know that in the future we'll make these more fun. In the future, I want to do these where we actually have a lot more fun. This was a last minute throw together. I really do think that we can play some games and it'd be fun, and get the community put together. And then while we're doing it, throw out these little advertisements to say you can help. I told you guys earlier about this guy named Kevin. If you go to coralcore.org and click on the give button, if you want to help Kevin, you can donate there. And right now we're doing the best we can to get him food and to make sure that he meets his goal to be able to pay his rent and keep from getting himself and his little girl evicted. He has partial custody before he gets his teaching job, which starts in January. So we're trying to keep him off the streets until then, because he's been so far behind. If you are interested in his Amazon wish list, we have one for him. If you purchase an item through the church operated wish list, I can give you a tax receipt if that's something you want, because I know a lot of people just want to help, but but I want to make sure that everybody understands. We have a nonprofit organization here. Use it. I do. And apparently if money or goods don't end up on the church's actual doorstep, I can't write a tax receipt for it. But if that doesn't matter to you and you want to give to help him out, it would make a big difference to him. I would be grateful to you if you want, but technically it's a personal gift if you donate to his GoFundMe. Please contact me and I'll make sure to get you the information for it. I don't want to put it up here because public, but in the future, this is going to be part of our plan. I want to see a day in the near future that you remember this woman who called around just a couple of weeks ago to all these churches and said, I have a baby I can't feed. Can I get some help? And then all these churches, including the Mormon church, told her no. And that's part of why I made that ad. You guys have seen the one I previewed yesterday. Some of you saw it. Saying at the beginning, well, maybe I'll just play it here at the end. But you know what I said. Because this has been a problem that churches attach loyalty to the church and future tithes and offerings committed to their church in exchange for giving out help that they're supposedly supposed to be giving out anyways, because they have this divine mandate to feed the hungry and to clothe the naked and to to visit the imprisoned and the fatherless, whatever. This whole Jesus thing. To get them to do their work, we atheists are going to have to do the work and do it better. And frankly, I think we're better suited to it. So one of the things I want to be able to do is to create a page where when somebody contacts us and says, I'm in need of help, and we're able to validate who they are and assign them to a volunteer, to a luminary, who is a person we have have done a criminal background check on, someone that we know personally, somebody who is committed to abide by our clergy code of conduct, and somebody who we can frankly and ultimately insure, and who is trained on how to deal with vulnerable people, on how to appropriately contact and work in the interest of protecting vulnerable people, vulnerable populations. When we have that person we can trust in a position where they can make sure that this person is getting as much aid as we can give, that we can then hold nights like this where we get together and say, who can throw so-and-so some baby formula right now? Who can send some baby bottles? Who can cook a meal in this area? And we'll have somebody come and pick it up. Also, where we can have people who will say, I can't be in charge of taking care of somebody and contacting them and ensuring, that they get everything that they need. But if it was making a meal, I can make a meal. Or if it was, a job referral, because we've talked about this before, up to 1/3 of jobs being posted right now are effectively AI bots posting jobs for other AI bots to apply to, hopefully on behalf of a person, and for an AI bot to sort through and reject that person, while all these other people out there just have to go through rejection letter after rejection letter, or even worse, no response at all. And we've never seen this before in America. Frankly, I don't know that it's ever been seen anywhere in the world, where that many ghost jobs, where there are all these jobs that are being posted by the company, not being fully intending to not hire anybody, or not caring that they're not going to wind up hiring anybody. Either they know it and they're just malicious about it, or they don't know at all and frankly just don't care because they entrusted AI to do everything, or because they wanted to save money by letting people go from the human resources or whatever, or because they just want their employees to work harder. And so they have to tell them, oh, we're out there looking for somebody, but we just can't find anybody who's qualified, or everybody that applies is overqualified. Probably the biggest joke I know in corporate America today. Oh, that person's overqualified. Fucking hire them then. If they're overqualified, hire them, because they obviously need a job. When we have a system that says when jobs are scarce and things are hard, lower interest rates, and even fucking Jerome Powell has come out to say, we did it and it's not working. We did it and it's not working because this system is flawed. Oh, if the companies aren't out there hiring, it's because they can't borrow. No, they're not hiring because the economy sucks and nobody wants to say it for fear of hurting one fucker's feelings. Sorry, political rant. Sorry. Sometimes I can't help myself. Anyway, better get off of this. Next time, I'm going to try better to have the technology sorted out. I've been working on the technology side of this all week, and I got a donation form, and I figured out a few bugs and fixed a few bugs, and now I know what bugs need to be figured out for next time. So in the midst of this, also at the same time, I am collecting blankets. As of, I'm hoping tomorrow, if the place is open, which apparently it should be open, we will have an address here in southern Utah. The address up in West Jordan can't receive shipments right now because we haven't paid them. And I'm going to try and get as early as tomorrow, hopefully, an address, a physical address that people can send blankets and sleeping bags and stuff to go to all the missions. And then anybody who wants to help with the missions out in the area where you are. For now, until I can get all the volunteer forms and get all the training system and everything out of the way, we're going to have to do it kind of loosey goosey, kind of podunk, case by case. But contact me, reach out to me, various ways, and tell me you want to help out, and then we'll figure it out. But we're going to receive donations through the church. Both if you give money through the website, and also if you send items directly to the church and then distribute them at the church's discretion, and just ask you to trust that we know what we're doing. Luckily, those of you who may be concerned about whether or not I am overextended, thank you. I don't want to lean too hard on Nikki, but Nikki has been a great help to me. And she's really on the ball. She's much better at things. And let's get more people here. I've been talking to some people who aren't even members of the Church of Korihor, who, when they found out about this opportunity to serve among the shelter insecure, the food insecure, and the work insecure in our communities, said, let me know when you're ready to get going on that, because I want to be a part of it. Even people who, we got God believers who want to be on this godless mission with us because nobody else is doing it, and nobody else is making these opportunities for them. So the Church of Korihor is real. I got asked this on TikTok. I act all pissed off about it. I just want to reinforce to you guys, it does not hurt my feelings when people say, is this a joke? The Church of Korihor is a satire, ha ha ha. And I post jokes where I act all pissed off, like, what the fuck do you mean by that? How dare you? And then I always let him in on the punch. I'm like, I'm just kidding. I totally get it, because I totally do. And but I gotta tell you guys, the highlight of my life right now is the Church of Korihor is fucking real, man. And the Church of Korihor is exciting people. I wasn't going to release this video on you anywhere until Sunday, because I'm currently paying for one campaign, one Google advertising campaign. I didn't want to do two at the same time, but I just, since I had it, I just threw it up on TikTok, right? This video we're going to close with here. And as soon as I had put this video up there, let me close some other things here. As soon as I put it up on TikTok at like 1 o'clock in the morning yesterday, after the broadcast, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, right? As soon as this thing was live on my TikTok, it freaking took off. All of a sudden, it may go viral all on its own. No paid advertising, just picking up and running all on its own because people see it. And somebody who follows me on TikTok had posted on their comment saying, "What? Haha, is this Korihor? Because is this satire?" And that's the one I'm specifically talking about, that I responded to that, and I'm like, no. The Church of Korihor is real. And I tell you, it's the most exciting thing I know about right now. And with all my screwing up over the course of the past year, still the most exciting thing I've ever been involved in. And I love that you guys are part of it.
All heard the stories of wealthy churches that are turning their backs on the needy this winter. You deserve to know that there's a poor church that's doing differently. That's partly because we are a godless church. We're the Church of Korihor. Korihor is a legendary atheist from the Book of Mormon who taught critical thinking and stood up to expose the greed of the church. And for that, his Christian neighbors turned him out onto the streets and left him for dead. 1 year ago, I started the Church of Korihor with some friends, and our first mission was to go out to Salt Lake City and deliver blankets to the people living on the streets. And every year we lose some of our neighbors, frozen on those cold streets. We're trying to expand and start serving our neighbors all over the country. Korihor is fictional, but the Church of Korihor is very real. I won't ask you to change what you believe, and I won't even ask you to join our church. But will we help?
Like Korihor, I was lost and alone. Like Korihor, cast far from home. Like Korihor, they stole my voice. Like Korihor, left without a choice. But unlike Korihor, I can speak again.